If your credit card stays maxed out, chances are you're an emotional spender. So we should probably talk about it.
Let's do it.
We've been getting this question a lot, how to fix high credit card utilization, but I think we've never sat down and really talk about what gets people into this situation, to this position, right? There's multiple reasons for running up your credit card, but some of them I think are more deeply rooted than others, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and I want to make that distinction before we even get started that, if you are going through hard times, you lost your job for whatever the case may be, this isn't for that person, right? This isn't for the person that is trying their best and literally has to use their credit cards to survive. This isn't for you. This is for those that do have a job, get paid very well, but somehow always keep in the same cycle of credit card debt.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you could be doing well, but you're not because you're just not being responsible. Or there's something deep rooted in you that's controlling the way that you use money, that you use your credit, that's been detrimental to yourself and to your family, which is kind of how we got here. So when we were thinking about this, with all the different clients we talked about, like, man, we're a couple of root issues or things that I guess our clients are faced with that put them into this position. And one thing we thought about, or one, obviously, there's multiple things to talk about, but today we want to talk about emotional spenders. And just to kind of to give you a backdrop, some context, like you're like, well, I don't know if I'm an emotional spender or not. This is a definition of an emotional spender. This actually comes from Experian, who makes a lot of money off of emotional spenders, right? They say emotional spending is when you spend money in a response to a time of heightened emotions, such as a time of stress or grief, or when you're feeling happy and you want to celebrate, right? That's what we're talking about right here. But what we want to dive into are like, what are some of the root issues that build up that behavior that make you become an emotional spender? And the first one that I could think of the top of my mind is people who are constantly trying to fill a void with materialistic things.
Yeah. I mean, I think you see it very often. Like, I think I might have struggled with that early on when I was younger. Just before I came into, faith and a connection with God and stuff, because you always feel this void. And me personally, I wanted to buy things to fill it, but I didn't realize that materialistic things never fill that void. Right. So it wasn't until like I got grounded in my faith that I realized, like, hey, like I actually needed a higher power, God, to fill that in. Right. So I think a lot of people are in their journey of finding that.
Yeah.
And in that journey, they unfortunately overspend and use a lot of credit cards and just are always in this cycle of trying to fill that void.
Yeah. I think, I love that you talked about like your faith, and we're believers, we follow the Most High and His commandments. And, but for wherever your faith practice is or the way that you view the world, the point is, like, do you have a way to digest and kind of deal with the torrent trouble storms of life? And a lot of people turn to different vices, right? Some people turn to drugs, or those are some of the like more destructive ones. Some people, I mean, they go volunteer at the shelter. There's multiple different ways.
Yeah.
But if the way that you handle stress or hard things in life is something that might be detrimental to you, kind of like, I'm gonna swipe my credit card even though I know I don't got it, we got to talk about it. That's concerning. And so that's kind of how we ended up wanting to make this video, is because we want to speak to that, because we feel like it's not talked about enough. People talk about the solutions on like how to fix this, but like in my experience and our experience from our business, like money doesn't solve money problems. Like just because you have more money doesn't. It's normally a deep rooted issue, because and it kind of leads into the next rooted issue, I believe, that kind of builds up an emotional spender. And that's the idea that you only feel confident when people are complimenting or they're looking at the things that you have. And that right there is giving you value. That right there is making you excited. Now, there's nothing wrong with having nice things, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, if you work hard, you make good money, like there is no reason why you shouldn't treat yourself and like buy yourself nice things because you have the money, right? Now, I
Yes.
think it becomes a problem when you feel the need to constantly get validated from people or things. And now your bank account is suffering because of that. I
Yeah.
think that's the distinction that we have to make. So
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
not saying don't splurge, don't take care of yourself. We're just saying, hey, like if you cannot do that right this second, like you probably shouldn't.
Yeah. That's where I think you definitely dive into that realm of unhealth, where you're like,
Yeah.
I need to stunt on the haters at all costs. Like,
Yeah.
even the cost of my credit, even the cost of paying 20% interest, whatever these credit cards charge. Like,
Crazy.
bro, we have a problem. We have
Big
a
one.
problem. Like, to me, I agree with you. Like, if you love a lavish lifestyle and you're very, maximalist or whatever the case may be, like, if it can fit in your budget, then go for it. Like, have a blast, show the world what you're like your accomplishments and live
Yeah.
lavishly. But like you said, if it gets to a point where, you know what, I'm check to check, but if it's a choice between decreasing my lifestyle and if it's a choice between decreasing my lifestyle or just go ahead and swipe that card one more time and I'm going, future me's going to deal with it. If you pick the second option, you need rehab. Like, that's the problem. You're going to be homeless. Like, that's an issue. So,
Yeah.
like, those are a couple of things that we feel like we got to nail in on people. Like, we got to dive into that part. And so when we're talking about like solutions and actions, like, what are some things that like people can do like to start making their way back from that place, whether it was something that was grandfathered in, right? Maybe it was something that they inherited, maybe it was something that they've seen, whatever the case may be. Like, you're watching this video, like, where's a good starting point?
Yeah. I think honestly, just becoming self aware, like realizing and understanding, like, hey, I have a problem. Now, whether or not you know how to fix it, that's a different story. We'll tackle that.
Yeah.
But I think, learning and being aware and maybe even seeking therapy to become aware. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I have this problem. I don't know what it is. Maybe the therapist can help you kind of like guide you and like,
Yeah.
okay, this is what the problem is, and becoming aware of that. I think that's like the number one biggest step because a lot of people don't even think that they have a problem, and that's the problem.
Yeah. No, I think to go with it, the next step after it would be acceptance, right?
Yeah.
Like, awareness is one part. Like, I understand I have this issue, but then accepting that this is unacceptable. Like, that I don't want to continue this. Like, I want to change. I want to do all these things. Like, that right there, I feel like there's a huge difference between awareness and acceptance. Awareness says, I understand that my arm is broke. Acceptance is like, I understand there's going to be a recovery process, and I know what I'm looking towards because I'm focused on the end goal, which is a healthy recovery,
Yeah.
right? And so in that, I feel like another thing that's important to do once you're aware that this is a problem, you accept that you want to change this. Some tools that you can start working through. One, I would highly recommend just accountability partner, just like having
Yeah.
some financial accountability in your life. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I think whether it be, like a friend, family member, teacher, whoever it is that you can confide in and let them know, like, hey, I have this problem, but I want to change and I
Yeah,
want
yeah,
you to keep me accountable, whether it be checking in on me weekly, daily, send me a quick text like, hey, did you, pull back on spending, whatever it is that needs to happen. Because if you don't, then you can always just fall back to the whole of, oh, I'll just
yes,
swipe again. If no one's looking out for you, it's easy to fall back in that.
yeah, absolutely. And I think the only way that really works is if, like, with those accountability partners, you make that decision to, like, you let them know, like, hey, I don't want to be the way I was before, and I'm trying to move forward. You declare that to yourself, you declare it to the world, or at
Yep.
least to your trusted people. That's the beginning of that step, I believe, of financial accountability. Because now, like, because people can't hold you accountable if you don't give them permission to hold you accountable, right? I have to say, hey, Suze, I don't want to do this anymore. Can you help me not do this? What I did was I was aware of the problem. I accepted this is a problem, and I'm asking you to help me move forward in this.
Yeah.
Like, unless you do those things, you're going to you're never going to get out of this rabbit hole. Money doesn't solve money problems. Like, normally it's some deep seated rooted thing, and that right there is huge. But like, let's say people just don't have, financial accountability. Maybe they're not there yet, right? Maybe they're still on their own. Is there anything you can think of that people can do to just like something that they can think through when those thoughts come up to, I had a bad day, swipe it. Like, we need to get you to swiper, no swiping. Like, how do I keep swiper from swiping?
Yeah. So again, I'll pull from personal experience what's worked for me, and I think it's worked for a lot of other people. It is always having the mindset of, do I need this or do I want this? Right. So those are two
Yeah.
different things, right? Like, you can go to the store and say, hey, I need toothpaste because I ran out, and you'll most likely, be upset at me in the morning if my breath stinks, right? But wanting a new fresh pair of Jordans, I really, really want that. Why? Because I
Yeah.
want the way it looks. I want people to look at them. They're clean, but I don't necessarily need that. I have a whole bunch of pairs of shoes already, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying don't buy the Jordans, but if you literally cannot afford it and you're putting this on your credit card that's already maxed out,
Yeah.
we have a problem. So always think in the back of your head, do I need it or do I want it? And I promise you, you'll make less of those mistakes. You won't be perfect, but at least you'll catch yourself thinking that through the store or online purchase, Amazon, whatever it is, and like, hold yourself back.
Yeah, I think, man, I think that's amazing. And, honestly, it goes so well with financial accountability because I know some people that'll talk themselves into some J's. I mean, really find a way to say like, man, this is a need. There's a show we watched called How to Live Your Rich Life on Netflix.
Yeah.
And one of the contestants, he had a spending problem, and I think he bought some J's in the episode, and he was trying to tell his wife like, let me explain like why I needed them. And so the whole point of like the show, I think was Remit. I think that's his name. The host of the show, his job was to get them a budget, but also to hold them financially accountable.
Yeah.
And so it works so well to have financial accountability because you have somebody that you can bounce these things off of to validate whether it is a need or a want. Because in your mind, it might be a want. You might go, oh no, boo boo, Starbucks, that's a need. Like we talking about, like
Yeah.
Folgers. What am I do with Folgers? It's not the best part of waking up. If you know, you know. Like that commercial. Best part, I'm not gonna sing it, but you get my point. Like having financial accountability goes well with that. And so also if you don't have anybody in your life, everybody in your life is terrible with money, we'll be your financial accountability partners. Like we can do it. Just us two. Like we have a link in the description to our financial accountability community where we just want to hold you accountable. We also talk about a bunch of other stuff, but for you, we are committed to helping you make sure that you move from emotional spender to big stepper. I don't know what that graduation would look like, but the point is like getting healthy with your money.
Spender.
Wise spender. I like it. Emotional spender to wise spender. I like that. Help you make that shift. That's something that we care about a ton. And so if you need some accountability, you can shoot us an email, but it's always best to just join our server, join our free community, because it'll be easy for us to just communicate with you, and we can be that sounding board to help like, hey, did you really need that or did you want it, to help you get on the right track financially. That right there would be that would be awesome. But let's keep going. Let's say someone, they understand, they're aware, they have accountability, all the steps in place, but they really just need to like get these credit cards down. Like they just really need to lower utilization in general. Like is there anything that someone can do to lower utilization?
Yeah, I think like a very extreme thing to do is like literally cut up your credit cards. Like you can always call back the bank and get a new one. If once you pay down the card, just cut them up, right? That way you cannot use them. So moving forward, if you have a utilization problem, if you have a spending problem, get them out of sight, right? Put them in the drawer, cut them up. So that way you can't use them. You're only allowed to use the money that's in your bank account, right?
Smart.
Now, obviously, another way to lower that would be to get a personal loan. A lot of places that do personal loans do soft pull, right? Meaning they don't do a inquiry on your credit report, so your credit doesn't take a tank because of that, right?
Yep.
Off the top of my head, we'll put them on the description of the video and also here. We have Sofi, we have Upstarts, we have Best Egg. These are all different places that you could go. Now, if your utilization is extremely high, you might not get approved. So the sweet spot is anywhere from like 30-45% utilization. After that, we do see a fall off rate. So you might not be able to get that personal loan, unfortunately. So the only way to get this down is literally pay your credit cards down. Simple as that. Like, we can help you fix late payments, collections, anything negative except pay your credit cards down, right? So if you have a job, whatever money you have left over, put it towards the credit card. All of it. All of it.
Yeah.
All of it.
I recommend the debt snowball method. Dave Ramsey teaches this, where you just like, you pay the minimum balance on the cars that are not the priority, or I'm sorry, you pay the minimum balance on the worst card, and then you slowly pay off the easiest debts on the biggest card, gaining some momentum so you can go all in on the biggest card. So that's a thing. And speaking of that, like, some resources I highly recommend, because again, and I feel like this is just important to say, like, money doesn't solve money problems, right? You might be thinking, well, I'm an emotional spender. The problem is I just can't afford my lifestyle. So if I just make more money, then I'll be good. Well, that's not the case, because if you make more money, you're just going to have access to an even more extravagant lifestyle. And then you're gonna boost that lifestyle, and you're still gonna be check to check. Like, this is why millionaires, rappers, actors, ball players, like all these people end up losing a lot of money because they're trying to keep up with the Joneses. And there's always more expensive Joneses. When you move up, there's always people that are doing better than you. So you got to keep competing. And so and you can even look up the stat, like 80% of bankruptcies are from people who are in the upper class, like who are millionaires, because they're over leveraged. They're spending just as much money as they're making, and it's too much. Check to check is check to check. So you don't want to do that. But some tools I recommend to help shape your mindset, maybe you just need to grow. One would be Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. I read this at a pivotal time in my life where I was trying to get my life together and learn more about financial literacy, and it helped turn on the light bulb to help me understand and build a better relationship with money, because you just might have a grandfathered in relationship with money, something that might have been presented to you from your childhood, from your family, or your surroundings, but it wasn't necessarily a molded framework to view money. It was just like, this is just what I know from the people I grew up with. Another one I would recommend is a documentary called Minimalist. I think it's a story about the important things, or something about the important things, but it's called Minimalists. And the idea of the minimalist movement is that you only have what you use, so you don't have anything in excess, right? If you live in an apartment by yourself, what do you need more than one chair for, right? It's that mindset. Now, it's a little extreme, but it's just great because you might be able to glean from it, and it might help you prioritize or help you understand what is a need and what is a want. I feel like that documentary does a good job of showing you this is a need and these are all wants. They take extreme stances, but I think it's a very, very great, well done documentary. It's about time for me to go back and rewatch it at this point too. It's hard because when I go back and rewatch it, I'll be wearing only like 1 or 2 shirts, like trying to throw all the spoons away. No, it's cool. So check it out. I feel like that's also something that helps. But also with that as well, like we mentioned, if you just need accountability, if you just need support, go ahead and click the link in our description. We would love to have you join our community so we can hold you accountable and help you change from an emotional spender to a wise spender. We want you to get to that next level because we want to see your finances made whole. Get it? Wholesome. Fine. All right. I tried. It's all right. But anyway, that's the end of this video. Anything else you like to add?
That's it. You killed it.
All right. We'll see you in the next one. All right. If your credit card stays maxed out.
Top out.
Top out.